Hey guys, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening, I'm glad you guys are all here. This is kind of a throwback Thursday video, kind of a video where I'm going to show you a bunch of awesome knives that are not the newest knives. They're not brand new knives, but they're kind of tried and tested knives, and there's some really good knives. They're knives from the past, but they're all still available. Most of them are still available, and I wanted to talk about them today. So starting out, I want to talk about the Benchmade Freek. This is the original Freek, the full-size Freek. It is a big knife, a full-size knife. It's M4 steel, coated blade, and it's got G10 handles. So you've got the red G10 liner, you've got your G10 scales that are kind of textured, kind of like the old school Benchmades. Got a deep carry clip on it. Really nice blade. I love the way that this spine comes up with the jimping that goes right off that axis bar lock jimping. It fits the hand perfectly. It is, again, a full-size knife. So this guy's going to clock in, probably one of the biggest ones on this list, at right at 8.5 inches overall, with a 3 3/4 inch blade. So it is a full-size knife, but it's light because it's G10 and it's got those steel partial liners. And then it's M4, so it's got a really toothy, hardcore grind for a Benchmade. Most of my Benchmades are toothy. The Freek is just an absolute cardboard slayer, and this has not been sharpened, and it's worked through a lot of material. So a knife that I really like, a knife that I don't carry enough, but it is a fantastic knife. It's one that I haven't turned loose of either. It's a knife that I know can't get them for what I got this knife for back in the day. And it's one that when I got it, I really liked it. It's one of those that I need to get the action just a little bit better in it. And I don't want to adjust my pivot. Because I don't want any blade wobble. And it just really needs to be broken in more. Put a little oil on there. I know y'all didn't want to sit through that. But hey, it's what we do, right? So that is the Benchmade M4 Freek. Fantastic knife. You can still get them. A great do everything you need it to knife, but it is a full-size knife. So moving on, we come to another bigger knife that I think is just super cool. I actually traded for this with my buddy Dark Gravity, and this is the Kansept Knives Bulldozer. The Bulldozer is a front flipper, tall, flat ground, 20 CV black wash blade, titanium frame lock, Damascus pivot collar, Damascus clip. If I'm not mistaken, this is the only Damascus that I have on knives, and it makes it really cool. Another thing I like about this knife is because the blade is so tall, you've got a really comfortable, ergonomical, thin handle, but you've also got enough of that blade exposed that I can easily middle finger flick off that black wash blade. Again, the front flipper is chef's kiss, very easy to use. Very easy knife to deploy. Again, a full-size knife, but that tall flat ground 20 CV blade is like an absolute laser beam. Therapeutically slicey. And I saw sometime this week that bulldozers had come back in stock, a few different configurations, but I can actually speak for this knife because I traded again one of my Ace Grands for it because I really like the look of it. I like the blade geometry. I like the way it fits in my hand. And it's a full-size knife. So this guy is going to come in at 8¼ inches. So a little bit smaller than our Freek, but still a full-size knife. Our next up is going to be a smaller knife, and this is a knife that was my first EMP EDC design knife. It's the Nymble. It's the OG Nymble. I think it's the version 2 because I didn't get in on the version 1. It's the first knife that I ever experienced that had true multiple deployments. I'd never seen a flipper tab that was low profile before I'd seen this knife. Couldn't believe how well the front flipper worked. And then I loved this capsule-shaped opening hole and felt that it just flipped like nobody's business. Slow rolls, if that's something you're into, just an absolutely amazing knife. This started a love affair for me with EMP EDCs, and I've purchased many of their knives. I've got, I think, every one except a couple of blade shapes. The Warncliffe, I don't have that, and I don't have the Nymble X with this blade shape. I've got the more sheep's footy. But this is the OG Nymble. Guys, this is an amazing knife. It is both comfortable in the hand. It is a fidgeter's dream. It is very, very slicey. This one was OEM by QSP, who did a great job with it. If I'm not mistaken, these are or were in stock. And the Nymble is a great small knife. Again, it's got fantastic blade stock, flat ground blade. You've got multiple deployments. So like I say, you like the flipper tab, you got it. You like a front flipper, you got it. You like a blade hole, you got it. You like a reverse flick, you got it. It's just good, guys. One of my favorites, and it's going to be a little bit smaller. That's why the Nymble X came out. This little guy comes in right under 7 inches with right a 3-inch blade. But for me, for an EDC knife, it's just about perfect. I love it. It's what started it all for me with EMP EDC, and this is the Nymble. So moving on, we come to a knife that I think is fantastic. I think it's one of my favorite Demko shark locks, even though it's not a Demko knife. This is the Flytanium Arcade. When this first came out, I thought, well, that's kind of gimmicky, but I didn't really realize that it was a partnership with Demko, with this Taiwanese plant where the shark locks and the Demko 20.5s were made, and that this knife was going to be manufactured and overseen there in that same plant. So the thing that Flytanium did was they came out with different aluminum handles. You can get different inserts. These are carbon fiber inserts. I've got, I think, in the box some Ultim and a couple of other sets of inserts. So you can change out your inserts or change out your look, change out your clips, change out your studs. It just really gives you a lot of different ways to personalize the knife. But what I love about it is if you look at this next to a 20.5, they're almost indistinguishable. It looks just like a 20.5. I call it the Demko 20.6 because I think it improves on it in almost every way. The grip is extremely comfortable. The aluminum handles are nice. The little bit of contouring that you get in that grip are fantastic. The axis lock, or excuse me, that was a Freudian slip. The Demko shark lock works awesome. You've got an S35 VN blade steel, which is an upgrade over most of the 20.5s. This knife comes in right around $200, and again comes with 2 sets of these scale inserts, and then you can buy, you know, extra if you want to get real frou-frou with it. But it is the Flytanium Arcade, a fantastic knife. Still available. I don't see them that much. I don't know if they just didn't make a lot or if people didn't react to them as well. But I've got a bunch of 20.5s, I think 4. I've got a little shark cub, and this is one of my favorites, this Arcade. And it comes in at 7 3/4. So it's going to be, if you held it up next to a 20.5, it's the exact same size. Very slicey. It only comes so far with this one clip point or drop point blade. Whereas with the Demko, you can get a slicer blade, you can get a sheep's foot or shark's foot. But I will tell you, this stonewashed S35 VN is next level sharp, came from the factory that way, and is just an absolute fantastic knife. Not a new knife, but a knife that deserves attention. I wanted to give another look, and on Thursday, Throwback Thursday, we might as well do that. So that is the Flytanium Arcade, made right next to, and I verified this from Andrew, talked to him about it, made right next to the 20.5s. So moving on, we come to one of my all-time favorite knives, a knife that's still available. I see them on Amazon from time to time. It's a knife that's very moddable. I added this backspacer. It used to have matching titanium scales, which I still have. I put back on these black G10 Smock scales, but this is the Spyderco Smock. This is a button-actuated top liner lock, or a button-actuated liner lock. So, unlike a button lock, you've got the liner here locking up with the tang. When I push this button out of the way, you see it move, allowing that to fall. Now, it came with double detent. So it had a detent that was on the close, and it had a detent for the open. I took out the secondary detent because I wanted it to drop shut. If I'd kept that in there, it would have shut, but it wouldn't have dropped shut. I'm not worried about it bouncing back because I'm used to button locks, but this one originally came with two detent balls. I actually sent my other detent ball to my buddy Chicago 23 because he was needing one, and this just has the primary detent ball in it. But it's the only Spyderco that utilizes this smock lock, this top liner lock. You're starting to see this now in some Voss Steed knives. You see it in, I think Kaiser's doing a knife with it. But the Smock was one of those knives that people either loved it or hated it. People talked bad about the choil, which works great for me as a hand rester. It's S30V, not the fanciest new steel, but it's great steel, works just fine. Still a super steel. It's got this hollow ground reverse Tonto blade that is just as slicey as anything you could want. I love the shape of the knife. I love kind of this, for lack of a better term, coffin-shaped handle that's just very neutral. Doesn't look like a coffin, but it is very neutral. Fits my hand great. Very easy to deploy, either with the flipper tab or with the Spidey hole. And it clocks in at a pretty decent size. This guy is going to be right at 8 inches overall. So it is a full-size, usable knife. It's the Spyderco Smock. You can still get these guys. They come with different scales, but you can mod the bejesus out of them. This one has a Lynch deep carry clip on it that I added. I added the scales, added the backspacer, took out the detent. A great platform. Moving on, we come to a knife that, if I'm not mistaken, is still available on Monterey Bay Knives website. It is a Carry Design Turbo. This is the Turbo for Monterey Bay Knives, which is a very tactical folder. This also makes for a fantastic EDC knife, and it's unique in a lot of different ways. For one, I love the micarta handle. It's aged out very well. I've had this knife now for going on 3 years, well over 2 years. It is a collaboration between Monterey Bay Knives and Carry, whoever that is. And you've got this really tactical spear point blade. But what's great about it is it's ZDP 189. So it's got an HRC down here at right around 68, 70. You can see where it's banded there at the bottom. There's a process that I'm not going to try to explain it because I'll just screw it up. But basically, you've got the harder steel wrapping around some not as hard steel. And that's how they do that. But this knife, even though it's a thicker grind, it's a tactical folder, which means it's a pokey stabby, slurpy saver. It is absolutely slicey as it can be. This knife, I want to say, was right around 200, 250 bucks. And that was for ZDP 189. It was in my Carta. My buddy A to Z EDC has 3 of these knives. He's got one in black titanium, totally blacked out. He's got another one that's kind of fancy, and then he's got a micarta too. It's that good of a knife. Just absolutely fantastic. Again, ZDP 189. You can see the blade steel right there on the back of the tang. Just an absolute winner, guys. And that's the Monterey Bay Knives Turbo. So moving on, and it is a flipper only, we come to one of my favorite Kunwu knives, and this was the first one that I experienced, and this is the Kunwu Original Tao. Not the X Tao, I've got that one too, but that's got the bar lock, and it doesn't have nearly the detent that this Tao 2 or this other Tao has. I love this knife. It is an M390 blade, has a nice deep carry clip that goes in and out of pocket fantastically well. You've got this really nice orange peel titanium finish. You've got the little Kunwu logo nestled down there in the corner. You've got a captive pivot with a little Damascus around it. And then you've got both a flipper tab, low profile, or you've got a front flipper, both of which work very well. And this is another full-size knife, so it's going to be about PM2 size, and I don't have it out here to compare, but it's 8 1/4 inches. It feels fantastic in the hand. It looks and acts like a fantastic gentleman's folder. I love it as an office carry. I love it as a dinner carry. I love it as just an everyday carry. It is a nicer knife, so I kind of like it for more formal, semi-formal occasions, but it carries very thin. It slices very well. I love this knife. It's just an absolute winner. And this is the Kunwu Tao. And I think it's the Tao 2, because I don't think I remember the Tao. But all it says on there is the Tao K703. It is a winner, and it's going to bring us to one more knife that is not brand new, but you can still get it. And it's probably one of the best knives, in my opinion, that WE has made. And this is the WE Fornix. The WE Fornix is a very thin Bowie style blade with a flipper tab that's very low profile. It's got a finger choil that is to die for, 20 CV blade steel. You've got a frame lock, some of the snappiest detent I've ever experienced in a WE. I think this is an original design. I don't think this is a collaboration. I think the Fornix might just be a WE design. But you've got this wonderful lock bar access with the jimping right inside where your finger goes. You've got an absolute snappy light switch, snappy push button, amazing middle finger flick, and then you've got some of the best blade geometry on a WE. This knife is, I call it a Bowie, but it's got a very, very thin grind, very tall, flat grind. And I mean, this thing will just lay open material. Great Slurpee saver because it's got a fantastically acute splinter digger point. And the WE Fornix, it's a little more expensive, but I think it has to do with inflation. This is probably the most recent knife out of this group. But the Fornix is an absolute Nefaris. It's not the Fornix. Correction. This is the WE Nefaris. Not the WE Fornix. The WE Fornix is another knife I've got that was $199. Forget I ever mentioned it. This is the WE Nefaris. So you got the WE Nefaris. You've got the OG Kunwu Tao. I see these come up for sale quite often on Blade Binge. You've got the Monterey Bay Knives Turbo. A lot of people don't know about this knife. It's a good one. The Spyderco Smock. One of my favorite Taichung, Taiwan Spydercos. You've got the Flytanium Arcade, which I consider the Andrew Demko 20.6, the OG Nimble, the little EMP EDC Nymble. We've got the Kansept Bulldozer, banging knife, and finally the Benchmade Freek. And I should have known that it was not going to fit So let's see if I can readjust these and get the Freek on the screen. Alright guys, there's the Freek. I appreciate you taking a look at some of these throwback knives. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the hype of chasing what's new when the great knives are right in our case. So, love your knives. Don't always hunt the latest, greatest thing, even though it's cool to do. Fall back in love with your knives. That's what I'm doing. But guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're still here and you haven't had a chance yet, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you, channel members. Thank you, anybody that made it in here. And please, look out for the guy or gal to your left. Please look out for the guy or gal to your right. Please look out for each other. Go forward with love in your heart and choose debate, not hate. I love you all. Peace.